Wichita sports and photography community is supporting the family of well-known photographer Linda Gregory. Linda was critically hurt Monday while shooting a football game at Northwest High School. Linda has worked with League 42 and in that time become a part of the Northwest Grizzly team. Brandon Stitt talked with a longtime friend of the family who says Linda and her husband never missed a game.
I never knew I needed her. I have a mom. I have a mother-in-law. They're amazing people. I never knew I needed Linda Gregory. And I don't think I was the only one who did.
Linda Gregory, telling stories through the lens of her camera.
What's so amazing is that you look at the fact that Linda's out shooting in League 42 baseball games. I mean, Mel and Linda have been there since the beginning with Bob Lutz and League 42, taking photos, being a part of that process.
And at Northwest High School, she's never missed a game.
When she came up to Northwest, I mean, they were at every game. Home, away, they were there. If they were sick, by God, they were going to be there for at least the first half.
Never did Joanna Chadwick think that a follow on Twitter and a chance meeting at a store would spark such a friendship.
That spawned the friendship, and suddenly they became part of our family.
It's a bond shared by many.
You know, you think about how a friendship can happen like that, and you think about Linda and Mel love me. They love my family. But it wasn't just us.
And for those that don't know Linda Gregory,
I can't even explain it enough to people who didn't know her, just how many people she touched.
it's those people, the community, that are supporting Linda and her family.
Whether she took their child's senior portraits or whether she showed up at their son's t-ball game. She just loves community and she loves people.
Linda's husband Mel shared on Facebook earlier today that Linda is on life support and awaiting family to arrive. He thanked everyone for their support and that Linda was doing what she loved.